Okay, we are in Sefer Yeshua, Perek Yud Aleph, and we're gonna pick it up from where we left off yesterday, Pasuk Zion, talking about over here that there are wars being waged, and it's against many of the kings. That's how we started this Perek. The conquest of the northern part of Israel. Southern was already taken care of, and it was a very difficult battle in terms of from a military perspective because they had horses and chariots and a tremendous amount of people. The pasuk continues in Zion and says, "Vayavo Yehoshua v'kol ha'am hamolchama imo." Yeshua came and the entire nation out to war with him. Aleihem, on them. Al mi marom pitom. They came on mi marom suddenly. Vayiplu bahem. And then they fell. So what's happening over here is they attacked them. It was a quick attack. That's basically the idea, and they were victorious. Next pasuk says, "Vayitnim Hashem." Hashem actually gave them the Yad Yisrael in the hands of the Jews, meaning that they were given over. Vayakum v'yirdafum ad Sidon, and they hit them and they chased them until Sidon. Rabbah, the great Sidon, Sidon Rabbah. Va'ad misrafos mayim, and until misrafos mayim. Va'ad bikos mitzpah mizracha, and until the valley of the Mitzpah, which was eastward. Vayakum ad bilti hishir lahem sadid, and they hit them until nothing remained at all. No remnant remained. Vayas lahem Yehoshua. So now, what did Yeshua over here do? Kasher amar lo Hashem. Just like Hashem responded. Esuseim ikar. He made the horses, he crippled the horses by cutting the leg tendons and making them unfit for war. Ve'es marchivaisehem sarav be'esh. And their chariots he burnt in fire. Basically, the idea over here is, as we learned last time, Yeshua was assured, he was guaranteed by God that they would be victorious in this war. And he told them, as we learned yesterday's session, last time, you got to burn them, the chariots, and you have to take care of the horses to make sure that they cannot be used in war. This is the first time this commandment was given, as we discussed last time. We saw the Radak, the Malbim, the Ralbag, many explain that this is the first time that they were fighting against horses and they didn't want to God wanted to make sure that the Jewish people weren't putting their faith in military success, rather they were relying on him. We didn't want the Jewish nation to become, quote, a militaristic nation, meaning just putting their focus on the military and thinking that's what it's about. At the end of the day, it's all coming from the one above. It's very tempting to take the horses and the chariots, use them for future wars. This was a test. And God wanted them to realize that the victory stems from him, not from military success. That's why the horses, there was no commandment to kill them. Just make them useless for battle. This is actually a very crucial point in the Torah, because this is really the place where we see that, okay, if God himself commands to injure an animal in a certain way, it's permissible. And that's what we discussed last time about this idea of painting animals and the like. Pasuk continues, says, Vayashav Yehoshua be'esahi. Yehoshua returned at that time. Turned back. V'yilkod es Chatzor ve'es Malka. And he conquered Chatzor and its king. Hika becherev. hit with the sword. Ki chatzar lifnim yiroish kol hamamlachos ha'elu. Because Chatzar previously was the head of all of those kingdoms, which means Barbanel explains that no other city would challenge him after this. The way that other commentators explain is that this was the most difficult location to conquer, and if this was conquered Chatzur, then everything else would be smooth. Vayaku es kol hanefesh asher bo lefi cherev hachrim lo yisir kol neshama ve'es Chatzur sarav beish. He hit every single soul with the sword, and he destroyed them. Nothing remained, no souls. And Chatzor he burnt with the fire. Burnt the whole thing. Got to get rid of them completely. And all of the cities of these kingdoms, Beskol Malcheim and all the kings Lakad Yehoshua conquered them. And he hit them from the sword. He destroyed it. Just like Moshe, the servant of Hashem, was commanded. However, all of the cities that were standing al Tilim, the Metzudas Sion translates that word, Melashon Tel V'Goiva. It's a language of a type of pile, something that's very tall. This word, it's a unique word, al Tilim. All of the cities that are al Tilim were started from Yisrael. The Jews didn't burn them. Zulasi as Chatzor Lavada Saraf Yehoshua, except for Chatzor alone, Yehoshua built. It's a whole radak on this word. Rashi explains. Which Rashi was in? Ha'omdos el Tilim. Oh, seems to be mistaken, this Rashi. Looks like it leaves out part of this Rashi and goes to the next Rashi. It's very bizarre. It must be a printing. Oh no, it goes down here. Sorry. Shaloi nehersu neharsa chaymosim. The walls were not destroyed. Kamo Yericho shenafu chaymas. So that wasn't destroyed. It's a whole radak over here. The basic idea that we have to realize from this, the Art Scroll quotes, unlike Yericho and Ai, which were totally razed and destroyed, these cities were allowed to remain intact and were subsequently settled by the Jews. The only exception, like we just learned, was Chatzor. That was destroyed. Simple explanation is Chatzor led the alliance, the team up against the Jews. The Medrash cites an opinion that Moshe specifically commanded Yehoshua regarding Chatzor. And that's why the Psukim specifically mention Moshe over here. Otherwise, the people would not have preferred and wanted to destroy Chatzor, which was a major city. That's what the Bereshis Rabbah says. Pei Aleph Daled. Whatever Yeshua did was based on traditions or commandments he received from Moshe. That's what the Gemara in Yevamah says. Why is Moshe referred to Eved in this pasuk? Well, pasuk or two later it mentions Moshe as an Eved alone. It mentions alone. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. Because it says over here, Moshe is an Eved Hashem in Yud Beis. Alright. So he's called an Eved Hashem, just like in the beginning of Sefer Yeshua. So what's the problem? What's the issue? He's called an Eved Hashem. We discussed that.
So I think in Pasuk Tesvav
Yeah.
it says Moshe Abdo, and then at the last in the Pasuk here, Tziva Hashem es Moshe without the name Eved at the end of it.
Oh, okay.
Why
All
not say
right.
Eved es Hashem es
All
Moshe
right.
Eved Hashem again?
All right, that's a good question. All right, so let's go to Yud Dalet and then Tezvav. We'll see. V'kol shalal ha'irim ha'ilu v'abehema. Okay, welcome back. V'kol shalal ha'irim. Let's get this guy down there. Yeah, there we go. V'kol shalal ha'irim ha'ilu v'abehema bazu lahem b'nei Yisrael. And all of the shalal is like the spoils of the booty. That's the English word that they like using. Yeah, the spoils of these cities, ha'ilu, of these cities, v'abehema, and the animals, bazu lahem b'nei Yisrael. The Jews plundered. Keep in mind, this is 2,000 plus years ago. They didn't have tech. They didn't have railroads. They didn't have AI. They didn't have everything that we have. The animals, this was their main economic success. That's what had value back then. Farming. That's where the money was at. Rakes kol odem hiku lefi cherev ad hashmidim oisem lo yeshiru kol neshama. Only everyone was hit by the sword until they were completely destroyed and no souls remained. Kasher siva Hashem es Moshe avdo, Cain siva Moshe es Yehoshua. Just like Hashem commanded Moshe, his servant. So we see Eved is used again, similar to the end of the pasuk a few psukim ago that's highlighted. Cain siva Moshe es Yehoshua. So too, that's what Moshe commanded Yehoshua. V'chein asa Yehoshua lo hisir davar mikol asher siva Hashem es Moshe. And that's what Yehoshua did. He did not remove from anything that what Hashem commanded Moshe. He did not depart or change from it. Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec. Yeah, so that's basically the idea. So now we have a question. Okay, it says in Yud Beis, Moshe is called Eved Hashem. It says in Tesvav, Kashir Siva Hashem es Moshe Avda. Moshe is an Eved. So too, that's what Moshe commanded Yehoshua, v'chein asa Yehoshua, and that's what Yehoshua did as well. Uhisir davar makol asher siva Hashem es Moshe. He didn't hisir, remove, sway, depart from anything that Hashem commanded Moshe. And Moshe is not called an Eved. I mean, I would assume if you're gonna say Moshe twice in a pasuk, calling him an Eved once is enough. You don't need to double dip on the same pasuk.
So if it's not the same Pasuk, you double dip. The same parak, but if
That's not double dipping.
they're saying two psukim is not double dipping.
Right. Maybe.
Uh,
I'm sure the Mefarshim talk about it. Also, Shiva Hashem as Moshe Avdu King Tiva Moshe is Yeshua. Yeah. I think the question is better than the answer, to be honest. But low hissir. That could be one explanation over here. There's really not that much commentary going over here. Actually pick up on this. I have a point over here in the Lilmud Ulalamed. Yeshua was precise in fulfilling everything that Hashem commanded Moshe. He didn't omit anything. Yeshua taught the masses. All those who listened understood that it was the teachings of Moshe that was being transmitted. That's based on the Gemara in Yevamos again on Sadi Vav. The Torah attests to the fact that all that Yeshua did, he did in accordance with the instructions of his Rebbe, his teacher, Moshe. Even whatever he said, as just a tangential point, it was understood that it was all from Moshe. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch writes that Nadav and Avihu lost their lives because they tampered with the halachas of holy places, the laws of the sanctuary. The people were incredibly impressed with the severity of the punishment. And they felt it and said that this is a serious punishment and demonstrated that God would not allow any change or innovation in his service. So the sanctification of God, or the Kiddush Hashem, was a lesson that would not be forgotten, that the laws of the Torah are eternal and they're not subject to manipulation by human beings, by humans. It has to be total and absolute subjugation to his will. Well said, if I may say so myself. So I can continue and say like this. Tezayin, Vayikach Yehoshua, Es kol haaretz hazois, hahar. Yeshua took the entire land, the mountain, Ve'es kol hanegev, everything south, Ve'es kol eretz Goshen, in the entire land of Goshen. Goshen, it comes up, Chanukah, and the parsha that's coming up, Goshen, here it is. Ve'es hashafela, in the lowland, Ve'es arava, and the arava, he took all of these lands. Ve'es, Har Yisrael u'shafela, and the mountain of Israel and the lowlands. It's everything that Yeshua took over there. It's a relatively straightforward pasuk. There's not much to add to this. This is just summing up the parts of the land that Yeshua conquered. Next pasuk says, Minahar hecholok ha'oila seir. This is actually a whole discussion exactly how to translate this word. Oh, different Goshen. Yeah, there's Goshens in Israel. The Drados and Mitzrayim. Good point. So the question is, why is this called Goshen? It's a different place than the one in Egypt. Good point. Good point. Good point. Slipped my mind. Okay. Minahar hecholok ha'oila seir. This is talking about from the land that is split. It's going up to Seir. Now, what does this mean over here? It's split. It's a whole discussion exactly what the explanation of this means. If we actually just go down for a moment to the Radak, Targum Yonason. Targum Yonason explains that this is referring to over here. Oh, by the way, it's very funny because Ein ze Goshen shel Mitzrayim, the Radak says. This is not the Goshen that was in Egypt, going back on the previous pasuk. However, the Medrash says, "Ubedrash oimer ki haya Goshen shel Eretz Mitzrayim." According to a Medrash, this was in fact the Goshen that was in Israel, that was in Egypt. The nivlas b'soichir Yisrael, it got absorbed in the city of Israel. This requires more research. What exactly that means? Wow. Next, Radak says that already requires an underline. See, I missed that point. The first, all the times that I learned this before. This requires more research. It's going to get an underline in my Radak over there. That's fascinating. Next, Radak says, Targum Yonason. According to Targum Yonason, Tura Peliga. Tura Peliga means it's a mountain that's split. Kloimar Shahaya Nechale Chotziv. Meaning that half of it was split. Hold on a moment. The Radak continues and says, Kloimar Shahaya Nichla Chotziv Hine v'chotziv hine. It was split, half this way and half the other way. V'yesh mafarshim anochi ish chalak. Oh, some say this week's parsha, or around the parshas that we're at. Bereshis Chav Zayin Yud Aleph. A person who was smooth, klomer shelo hayaba ilanos. It didn't have any trees. So either what this means when the pasuk says this word over here, either that it was split or that it was flat, meaning not that it was a plateau because it was a mountain, but in terms of that there were no different trees. There's many different types of mountains. Some have trees, more rocky, flat. So that's the explanation over here. Plus it continues. Oh, what do we got over here? Uh, you don't need to write the comments. You could talk. The Goshen is in Israel. Parsha and Dreidel is in Mitzrayim. Pretty wild. Wonder if any connection to all base medrash and shuls in the time of Sheol go to show connections this week. Yeah, you come up with a lot of Torahs. So, anyways, so what are we talking about over here? So we're saying that this is the mountain that is a chalak ha'oila se'ir that goes to se'ir v'ad Baal Gad bebikas halavanon tachas har chermon. So this is over here talking about the mountain that was chalak ha'oila se'ir. That means that it went up over here to se'ir until Baal Gad bebikas halavanon in the valley of the Lavanon tachas har chermon at the foot of the mountain of Chermon. If I'm not mistaken, this could very well be the mountain of Chermon that we still have today, and there's skiing over there in Israel. Ve'eis kol malchehem lokod ve'yakim ve'yamitim. And all of the kings he conquered over here, and he hit them, and he killed them. That's what Yehoshua did. The Rava is the Jordan valley from the Dead Sea northward to the Kinneret. That's what the art scroll says over here. The art scroll actually comments on Goshen. Simple explanation. They say it's not the Goshen in Egypt. However, Rashi and Radak cite a medrash that it was indeed Egyptian territory and it was given to the tribe of Yehuda because Yehuda went to Goshen ahead of Yaakov and his family to prepare for a place to learn Torah. So there's a whole discussion about this Goshen. To explain how an Egyptian province became part of Israel, the Kli Yakar conjectures that the governor of Goshen owned land in Israel, and this property was ceded to Yehuda as reward for their ancestors' dedication to Torah. Fascinating. Totally missed that point. First time around here. This next pasuk is actually what to say about this pasuk. So we're gonna wrap it up after this pasuk. It's a lot to say. Pasuk says, funny, I thought we were gonna finish the parak, but Yomim Rabim also Yehoshua as Kol Hamalachim Ha'ilu Milchama. It's a lot of days Yehoshua took to complete this war. A lot of days. Took time to wrap it up over here. Yomim Rabim also Yehoshua as Kol Hamalachim Ha'ilu Milchama.
Is that just a fact or it's a negative? It's a positive?
That's exactly what we're gonna slice and dice over here. So there are midrashim about this. They are not happy with this idea over here. Truth is, we should touch upon this now. We should really pick it up from this for the last session on this parak. The simple explanation is that this is a negative idea over here. We'll just start with Rashi on the Radak. Maybe we'll end it with the question. I already know the answer, but start with Rashi because Rashi is usually shorter. Bigenusoi siper hakosov. Shai miskavin lidchois eskivun eskivu sha'aret kedei laharich yamav. Wow. According to Rashi, this is coming to say negative information about Yeshua. Because Yeshua knew that as soon as the war would be complete, he would pass. And therefore, he tried to prolong the war, drag it out, in order to live more. Lefi and Rashi continues because Shenemar v'atan tanchilenu oisim. Medrash Tanchum. According to a Medrash that Rashi's quoting, the Radak is also going to quote this at more length. It's talking about the negative. Yeshua did this to prolong his life. Radak says, "Lamal Omar Lokad Yeshua Pamachas V'Tzalomer Ki Kol Malachim Ahim Shezocher Lokad Pamachas Bli Hefsek Kodim Shavu Elamachna Gugala." The previous battle, Yeshua, he conquered everything in one shot, swiftly. There's a medrash that Yeshua was punished. He was lazy when it came to this war against the kings. Remember, this wasn't one nation. This is multiple nations that teamed up against the Jews and Yeshua. As the pasuk says, Yamim Rabim. Shori Amar Lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kasher Hayisi Moshe Yeimecha Lama Chasr Mishanoisiv Eser Shanim. Why did Yeshua not live till 120, but it was till 110? Why did he lose 10 years of his life? Elo Amar Yeshua Imani Manchil Haaretz B'Meheiro Yisrael V'Oiselem Mochamas Miyad Amos. Yeshua said, well, if I'm just going to be quick to inherit the land, conquer it, so what's going to happen? I'm going to die. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Lo kach asa Moshe Rabbecha. Hashem said, this is not what Moshe, your Rebbe, did. Kishamarti lo nimkum nikos b'nei Yisrael meisa mejanim achitzel fa'amechem yavi daber Moshe la'am echotzu v'ata Allah b'livecha kach. Says Hashem to Yeshua, when I told Moshe, wage war against the Midianim and then after you're going to perish, Moshe didn't delay. He did that immediately. And now, you yourself are delaying? Comes the Radak. Now I'm going to take away from your life. You're going to die 10 years younger. David, Olav Shalom, the Pasuk says, David teaches us, Rabbis, Machshavois Bilish Isht, Mishnah, and it's in Mishnah, Yud Tes Chafalf. Rabbos Machshals really Vish, Veltzes Hashem, Itakum. Men, people, we have a lot of thoughts. The saying goes, man plans, God laughs. A lot of thoughts, but at the end, it's going to be Hashem which will prevail. The obvious question is, how could we defend this practice? How could we defend Yeshua? What was Yeshua doing? Was he just trying to increase his life? Hashem told him to do something. How could we defend Yeshua over here? What was he trying to do? Simple explanation. So we'll have to pick it up from that next session. That's exactly what we'll start with from this pasuk. Very cryptic.
It's funny, it can go both ways, because right before it said that Yeshua did whatever Hashem and Moshe commanded.
Correct.
So,
and then the pasuk says, but by this he